Hi, it's Donna here from Clever Crafting. Thanks for joining me. So today's card we're using a lot of little bits and pieces. So that's an A6 card front with a pattern piece of paper that's cut a little bit smaller. I've got a couple of greetings there in circles. I've got some strips of card for red, for green. They're like just over 2 centimeters, like 2.2 centimeters wide and 15 tall. And I've got another A5 piece of cardstock there, and I've got some little bits and pieces of ephemera, some small pieces. So before we get started on making it, I want to show you what we're making up front today, because it's really important that you understand what it is that we're doing, I guess. So I haven't actually put a front on this card, but I wanted to show you the inside. And then this one I have completed a little bit more. This one's got patterned paper in the strips, not the plain paper like we'll be using today. And I think some of my ephemera gets lost in this one, but you can see that the plan is exactly the same, so you can choose. So this is the template we'll be using, and I do have a link for that below. And what we're going to do to start off with is cut around the red line. When you print it out, you'll see a red line. You'll cut it out of there, and this will actually make it an A5 piece of card, an A5 piece that will match our card. Now this card is lightweight. It's actually the J. Burroughs 250 GSM from Officeworks, but I actually think it's equivalent to around about a 160 GSM from other card stocks. But anyway, it's a great card. I like to use it. It's great to stamp and colour on. And you can see that I've just used some masking tape and taped it on. Now, all of those lines, the black lines are on the template are the scoring lines. And so you can just follow it like I'm doing there. Mine is in centimeters. So, you know, the first one's 1.5 centimeters. Then all of the rest of them are 2.5 centimeters long, wide. But if you don't have a centimeters one, you can use those lines on your inches one just to line them up. Or if you don't have, like I'm showing you there, you could just move it along and use it. Or you could use a ruler and the back of a butter knife, or a bone folder if you wish, a stylus. So I'm just removing that template off the top of that piece of cardstock, and I'm going to show you the folding pattern. Before I do that, I'm going to mark what's the front and what's the back. So that first score was 1.5 centimeters from the edge. The last scoring line is actually 2 centimeters from the edge. So you need to mark one as the front and one as the back, and then one as the top and one as the bottom, the top and the bottom. So you can see I've done that, the front, the back, and the top and the bottom. This is just going to help you keep a track of where you're at. So we're going to start with the first fold. When we're going to fold the front one, the front piece that I just marked as the front is a mountain fold. Then the next one is a valley fold. Then we're going to do a mountain fold and a valley fold and a mountain fold. So basically we're setting it up as a concertina. I'm just doing this on my, you need to do it on both your template as well as your cardstock, because we're then going to fit the template over the cardstock. You'll see that anyway. But it's good to go through it twice. And I just want to reiterate that the first one is smaller and the last one is smaller as well. And it should finish on a valley. So once again, this is actually on my cardstock. I've just put an F on the front piece and a B on the back piece because I need to match those up. It's very important that they're matched up correctly with our template. The only difference with this one and the template is that because this is cardstock, even though it's a lightweight cardstock, you want to make sure that those creases are, really nice and crisp. So I'm using my bone folder on them all, on each one. And you'll also probably notice I've sped it up considerably here so you don't get too bored, that I'm lining it up at the top and the bottom as well to make sure that they're really straight. You want to make sure that it's straight, because otherwise you'll lose some of the effect of it from your card. So there it is, all lined up, just double checking that that's all good. And remember, the smaller piece is the front. Now I'm going to open that up We've slowed down a little bit for a second. And before I do anything else, I'm actually going to apply all of my strips. Now, as I mentioned very quickly at the beginning, each one of these strips is about 2.2 centimeters wide. And I think I've cut these ones to the 14.8, which is the height of an A5. The problem with that is I normally like to cut them a bit bigger, so about 15 or maybe 15.5 centimeters. And then when I've stuck them on, I'll trim them off, because can you see there's that little white strip down the bottom? It doesn't seem to matter how hard I try. There's always tiny little bit of deviation between the measurements. So my suggestion to you is to cut them a little bit longer and then trim them off once they're actually glued to the card. So remember, this is all the inside, but I am lining these up the top because the bottom won't get as noticed as much as the top. And there will be a white gap either side because you don't want it going over your fold lines, over the scores and the fold line. So now I am popping my template right on top of that base again. So exactly like we did when we scored it, but this time it's all folded up, because what we're going to do is the cut. So you can see that the first one is the mountain, the next one is the valley. But I've got the cut lines marked in red on the template, and I need to fold my first valley temporarily into a mountain, and I am going to cut following that red line down to the score line. And you can see that by folding it in half, I've done both sides, and I've only had to cut half the length, and I haven't had to use a knife. So the next fold is a mountain fold, and there's two cuts on that. There's one that's 2 centimeters from the end, and then another one that's 7 centimeters from the top edge. So I'm cutting the first one. You can see right through both the template and my card underneath, and I'm cutting that to the black line, which is also the fold line. So that's a mountain. Then there's nothing on the next valley, nothing on the next mountain, but I am going to keep them folded like so. And then we're going back into the valley, and there is one there in the valley. You can see that. So that is, I believe, 4 centimeters from the bottom, and then an additional 3 centimeters. So 7 centimeters up, you're going to put a cut, and then 4 centimeters up. And you would have noticed that once again, I have temporarily made my valley into a mountain to make that cut easy. And now I have just flipped it back to be a valley again. So the very next fold is a mountain fold. I've got one 3 centimeters from the top, and then another one 6 centimeters from the top. And I believe that's the last cut that we're going to make. And we're going to open that up again and just remove the template from the top of my card. So now what you should have is a whole pile of perfect cuts. I'm going to show you how this folds twice. On the template first. So the first fold down the bottom, remember the first fold's a mountain, then the valley. So we've got the cut on the valley. So the part that we've cut at the base, we're going to make into a mountain. Now we've gone to the mountain fold, and that little piece on the inside there, I've made into a valley. You can see that. The next fold is 4 centimeters up and then 3 centimeters. So I want that cut in between. That was in a valley, so I'm going to make that small section a mountain. And then the very last one is the mountain, and I'm going to miss the top piece, the 3 centimeters, to take the second 3 centimeters, and that's going down as a valley. So you can see that this is how it needs to look when it's all folded. So let's do it again. The first valley, the cut becomes a mountain. The second valley, the cut piece becomes a valley. So the valley becomes a mountain, the mountain becomes a valley, the cut piece. So the next one where we've cut in the valley, that little piece becomes a mountain. And the last piece where it is in the valley, in the mountain, we're going to make a valley. Okay, so now that we've got all of that, we're going to stick it in place in our card. So you may have to stop and rewind that piece a couple of times if you're making this at home so you don't get confused. But this section, I've already measured it all out for you, and we're going to mark this 5 centimeters in, which is 2 inches if you work in inches. And you can see that I've marked it at the top and the bottom. Now that last fold is actually a valley fold, but we're going to make that a mountain fold, and that fold line, the crease needs to go on that 5 centimeter mark. So I am popping glue on it. When you put glue on it, please make sure that you put glue nice and close to the crease, because that is the major part. That's where a lot of the pressure is, right on that crease. The rest of it you also need to cover, but not quite as well as that first line. Now I'm folding that back. Remember, this was a valley fold. I want you to make it a mountain fold. And then we are going to line up the fold line. So that's the crease there that I've lined up with my 5 centimeter mark, and at the same time making sure it's flat at the top and the bottom. So I've folded over the whole part of the inside, and we are going to press that down with our bone folder to make sure it is a really good adherence. So now we've got to fold it down, and this is where it can also become confusing. Remembering that, so the first part is a mountain fold, so we want that to go flat. The next one is a valley, then a mountain, then a valley, then a mountain, then a valley, then a mountain. That's going backwards. Okay, so you can see that those 2 folds, because I've measured it out for you, do not go over the edge of the cardstock. I think it's really important to note that the first section, the 2 centimeters is flat down, and then the next section, which on mine is green, is also flat down. And then we just follow the concertina. I'm just showing you that again there, to make sure that those 2 flaps do not go over the outside edge of the card. So now sticking the front. So you can see that our front flap needs to be going towards the back part of the card. If it's not, then it's folded incorrectly, so try that part again. And you can see that I'm popping glue on that, making sure that it's right along that edge, because once again, that's where the pressure is going to be. Now, unlike the back, we don't have to do anything with the front, because it's just going to find its home, a natural home. All we have to do is make sure that the concertina is squashed, and we're going to fold our front cover over onto the card. And when you open it up, look at that. Beautiful. How it's a lovely geometric pop-up foldy thing with lots of little nooks and crannies for you to hide your little embellishments in. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. Oh, I think we're doing the front first, sorry. So on the front, because there's so much action happening on the inside, on the front I am just going to pop some patterned paper. I think I actually got this from Stampin' Up! Quite a few years ago, so anything in your stash will work. I chose this because it matches the green and red stripe inside. This was a piece of leftover red. I should have put it on my patterned piece before I stuck it on, because then I would have trimmed it off, but anyway, that's okay. I just marked it with a pencil, and I'm going to pop that on the front. I'm then just going to grab these pieces. Now I cut these out with the Season's Greetings, those dies set that you can also get a matching, you can get a stamp set, and you can also get a matching die set as well. So, and the die set matches the birthday greetings too. Anyway, they'll all be linked below, but you can see I've just stuck that on the front. And I've decided I'm going to put that little Christmas tree there too, but I've just put it to the side for a moment. So now what I'm going to do is just pop some of these in. So that little Rudolph I have just stuck so his head is hanging down. And I don't think I sit for all of this, because you can decorate it pretty much all yourself. Just a couple of rules to remember. Make sure that when you close it, none of the pieces pop out of the top, the bottom, or the side of the card. So it's always a good idea to maybe put it temporarily, or, you know, just lay it in there and see how it goes. You know, like close your card before you actually permanently stick it down. But for the most part, you can put it on everything except for those 2 small pieces at the front that poke right to the edge. Otherwise, and other than that, you'll be pretty well okay. So I am just going to keep decorating this. So I can put her there on that, but I can't put her over the edge of that little one, because she will go outside the card. So here's our finished card. Decorating it up. I've just put that tree on the front. And how lovely. Of course, you can add more pieces. The strip down the inside on the back, you could put something there. I was going to write my greeting on that part, but you could put more of your ephemera down that piece and write on the back if you wanted to. It's really totally up to you. Anyway, I hope you learned something. I would absolutely love you to give this card a try. I'd love you to give us a look at your results, how you went, over on our Facebook page. I will put a link for that below. It's so much fun to make this card. You'll actually see on our Facebook group there's a couple of other people that have done it and posted up their creations, so you'll be able to see some variations. Anyway, thank you once again for joining me, and I will see you again next time. Until then, stay safe and happy crafting.